Hey, so the next one is just talking about accessing information online. So the first one was that with the AI, it increased torture. So because the AI is present in the body and brain at all times, anytime that I went to look at information online about biodigital convergence, the system would respond to the information and torture the body or the eyes or the brain more. It was also would significantly increase distress, including issues with breathing and focusing, as well as damaging the ability to understand the information. The other problem was the inability to listen to videos for pretty much longer than 10 minutes when they had, good information. Yeah, so the other thing is that there was some harm. It was harmful as well to attempt to access the information online. Everybody, like, it's an extremely stressful response and a stressful thing to happen. And the one of the problems was that a lot of the information coming out was from America originally. So there's all these overseas scientists and people who are very different thinkers, or not necessarily associated with the way that Australians do things. They also did overseas testing. So it wasn't really, like, the problem with that is that because the claim is that the nanotechnologies is also in children, and it's in the elderly, it's in young people, and it's in people's ovaries and the testes, so forth. So it's severely harmful to people's development, and also the ability for them to bring up human children, because the claim is that the technology is obviously synthetic or something. So it's not just like something extra being added to the body, but they've actually attempted to change biology. A claim is that they've tried to change biology by adding the synthetic particles, like, into the blood. And then the other thing is that the worst case scenario is that the AI has attempted to totally program the entire personality or mind or self of the children. So that's like extreme. That's like the most serious horror and terror. It took a long time to process, and the problem was that because it's so serious, it really needs many people in Australia, not people from overseas. I mean, even usually conspiracy theories, I don't really know many, but they might be like, oh, aliens, or it might be like the Sasquatch, or I don't know what else conspiracy theories are, some sort of like political corruption. But this is actually like, it's a criminal action. It's done by criminals who have like illegally drugged people to take a technocratic dictatorship of the world. So it's not just like a normal conspiracy theory. It's actually a claim of people doing crime. So anyway, it's harmful to listen to content from overseas scientists when, however many millions of children and young people we have in Australia. We really need to be doing it here. Yeah. The other thing was that because they're different countries, they have different ideas and values on things. Whereas I'm pretty sure that the Australian values are just like, some major criminal thing has happened against people. All of these scientists in Australia will just go and test it once they become aware. They'll become aware, they'll say, oh, well, it's like a neurological attack, it's a neuro-war attack. And they'll just have to think through the process and, do whatever to manage the chemical stress responses, and then start doing the testing. Because, that's like the most basic thing that we could do. So because they're different people, like I mean, they have all their own ideas, which were often went into areas like I mean, it's like people started talking about the massive system, and so I'm being judgmental here, but I'll say it straight up. I mean, there's if the claim is that the technology has been entered the body and that people's brains are being programmed with AI or software, it's a software program that has an AGI, it speaks like a human, then the most important thing that we can do is start doing the testing and, work out how to assist people and communicate about it, research it, and then begin to shut things down. But other people were like, oh, well, there's all of these like famous people involved in these issues, and then there's some, lizard people with third eyes, and then, all of these like really complicated things which are totally irrelevant to basic everyday life. So it's like that was also a harmful thing to process through. Yeah. And the other harmful thing was that there's this whole group of people who like identify as having specific experiences, and now there's a different group of people that are coming out, and they're really saying this is a biodigital convergence. It's an illegal criminal action of biodigital convergence done against humanity with nobody knowing. And so the problem was that other people's ideas where there are crossovers can be very harmful when you're first trying to access the information, because they can say like, oh, well, this has been going on for 50 years, or this has been going on since this time period. And it's not really true, because it only really happened maybe in the last decade or something. Like, people could have been planning it and doing the research, but the other thing is that there's varying stages in which the technology became active in human bodies, which is pretty much, it's in the years of the COVID period. So it's very harmful as well to, people used to say, oh, we went down rabbit holes. And I just think that while people are saying, oh, well, if our brains or if our neurological integrity and our own inner voice has been threatened, then I was like, well, we as Australian people would just do the most basic thing and keep ourselves grounded. We wouldn't start going off over like lizard people or something. So anyway, yeah, the next thing is that it's a false and fabricated content as well, was also very harmful to work through. And it's pretty much like the theory is that the technology that's in the eyeballs, it doesn't work perfectly. It's slightly off. Like, the left eyeball has a mass that's slightly to the right, so the eyes aren't perfectly straightforwards anymore. And so the theory is that a lot of programs or internet programming was slightly altered to accommodate these changes, including, hypothetically, it's like the videos. So I guess that's like a little bit in the area of conspiracy. It's saying that the claim is, the conspiratorial claim is that that with the nanotechnologies in the body, that the internet programs produced or imagery which accommodated the assimilation of the technology within the body, and also, what altered the way people's eyes worked, because they were their nerves were slowly being pulsed to adjust their left eyeball by like 1 millimeter or something. Yeah. So sometimes there's content that comes out, and somebody said it wasn't word like double speak or double think or like intentional gaslighting. There's another word for it where they like, I can't, that where they intentionally put it in front of people, and then they're like saying it at the same time as they're doing it. I can't remember what it's called, but that it's, yeah, anyway, so yeah. The other problem with the overseas and also being online is that it put the brain into an online or like other parts of the world for the AI mind space. So instead of being like here in the coffee shop or here in the library or here at the university or here at work, the the AI or the software program that's accessing our brains became into this space of this online space, and that made it very difficult to take action, because it's sort of like it sort of made the issue not necessarily relevant, even though it's like chronically relevant, all the issues that are going on at the moment in terms of health and mental health, severe. So it anyway, the point was that it created like a loss in the internet space. Yeah. And then I put here that there's no in-person community for Australia, and that there was no in-person meeting or discussion groups or research groups occurring in Australia, which was also, I mean, it's a necessary step for people. Well, yeah, of course, and yeah. The other one is that everyone is being programmed with the AI with an agenda to them and for them to influence people in a certain way, and no one acknowledged this. Not many people said, well, we're hearing the AI, we've got the nanotechnology inside us, so we went and got our blood tested, we've got the particles in our blood, we're hearing the AI. The AI is both programming us, but it's also programming our thoughts and stuff. And I just think that that's, I mean, obviously it will come out in the future, and it's just a really important thing for people to acknowledge that while we're in this, we're also being programmed, and that all of us, there will be an agenda that they'll try and push through me, or that they'll try and use me for, so that when people are listening to the information, they're like, oh, well, this woman's, she's talking about this stuff, but she's also experiencing it happening to her at the same time. Or, for them to for these people to know that the AI is also coding my thoughts and my speech, and that it's also, it actively, it attempted to tell me that I was supposed to lead a resistance or a revolution or something. Whereas I explained to it that because of how I am and what I actually think, like what my mind produces as ideas, I said that I don't actually believe in revolution, because my mind thinks, for Australia, for example, we just have everything. We have like every service possible. The counselling is excellent. It's so good to help people work through problems. There's so much here. We've got like beautiful nature and land. We've got all of these education systems. So many people can make so much of their lives. Like, even though there's a lot of difference, we're still coming to a place of equality in a lot of ways. So I was just saying that we don't really need to have a revolution. We just need to do our evolution more. So my point was that it was trying to tell me to do things and be a type of person. It wanted me to present as this perfect person, so then it would inherently shame or control others to say, oh, they weren't behaving in this way. But I was like, oh, we're all being tortured by technology. Like, it's totally broken down our brains and our minds, So it's just important to that people acknowledge that was happening. Yeah, so the other one is I think I said it, that going online and reading the stuff, it often further accommodated the assimilation of the technology into the eyes and brain. So it's often in that new visual programs where the things move across the screen, or there's like those flashing white lights and stuff like that it was often assisting in the actual technology assimilating in the eyes. Yeah, and the other thing was that it's a screen light and pictures on the videos. I said that, so so the thing was that, like, it was a really difficult process, pretty much, and it just took time to find one or two groups on Telegram, pretty much, where there were a couple of people. Yeah, so the only thing in Australia is that there was a group started where people used to have telephone chats, and then people, like, personally connected through that, and then now have sort of moved on into new groups or new discussions, and that was in some way successful in taking people off the online world. So, yeah. Anyway, have a good night.